Hello, my name is Jessica R. Johnson, and this presentation is on research design for Aspen University. In order to address a research question, a research study must be designed. Several questions must be asked in order to accurately design a study that addresses the research question. These questions include determining the type of participants that will be used, as well as the quantity of participants. Also, where and how will these participants be selected for the study? And how will the tasks within the study be formulated? In addition, what type of data will be collected and analyzed? Will there be quantitative, qualitative, or mixed methods design of research used? What instruments will be used and how will they be obtained for the study? How will the participants be debriefed upon the conclusion of the study? Now, while the type of study being conducted will be the determining factor, these questions and their answers are vital to the creation of a research design. Institutional approval is needed for both human and animal participants prior to beginning a research study. In the book, Research Methods, Design and Analysis, it states that the Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee, or the IACUC, must approve the use of all non-human animals for research studies to ensure they are treated ethically and appropriately. To ensure that the animals will not endure unnecessary pain or discomfort, the IACUC reviews all research study applications in depth. If areas of concern are located, the researcher has an opportunity to revise the study in order to receive IACUC approval. For example, albino rats are commonly used amongst researchers. Specific guidelines provided by the Animal Welfare Act and the National Academy of Sciences Institute of Laboratory Animal Research assist institutions in caring for animals in a professional and appropriate manner. When determining if human participants will be treated appropriately, the Institutional Review Board, or the IRB, must weigh the potential benefits of a research study and compare it to any risks associated with the study for the participants. Dangerous and/or unethical studies might require redesign in order to comply with the IRB and produce an ethical research design. An example of an unethical study was mentioned in the book Research Methods, Design and Analysis. Cancer patients receiving radiation were told by researchers that their cancer might be cured in the radiation administered during the research study. Truthfully, the experiment was being conducted to find out the effects of radiation on humans, which represents gross negligence and manipulation by the researchers. Experiments like this should not be conducted due to their unethical nature. This graphic represents the levels of an IRB, or Institutional Review Board, review. At the bottom, the exempt level, which does not exempt the researcher from the review, represents studies that present minimal risks and non-invasive procedures to human participants, such as anonymous responses, interviews about non-sensitive topics, and observations of public behavior. The expedited level represents studies that contain no more than a minimal risk to participants. It includes studies such as the collection of blood from healthy participants, ethnographic studies, and use of focus groups. Finally, at the top, the full board review represents studies that would not be found within the exempt or expedited categories. These studies present more than a minimal risk, and participants include vulnerable groups such as children, prisoners, pregnant mothers, etc. Before beginning the actual research study, a pilot study is beneficial in that it provides a test run of the experiment, allowing the researcher to practice procedures and select the best method of measurement for the study. In addition, the pilot study can reveal areas where modifications are needed, thus allowing the researcher to make necessary changes prior to implementing the study. For example, a researcher conducting interviews with teaching staff to determine their opinion of current administration practices should first select a few teachers to review the questioning. The researcher might find that some questions need to be modified or even removed. Responses from those within the pilot study might also allow the researcher to think of additional questions that will contribute to the study. Because most experiments require consent of all participants, researchers must ensure the consent forms provided detailed information about the study, thus allowing the participant to make an informed decision on if they want to participate or not. The wording on all documents should be specific, yet appropriate to the audience to ensure for understanding. Both procedures and any potential risks should also be listed and fully explained to participants, while allowing the participant to remove themselves from the study without consequence at any time. If children are the participants in the study, they must be able to understand the directions and procedures in order for consent and assent to be provided. Data for research studies can be collected through experimental or non-experimental methods. Quantitative methods utilize direct observation and experiments as a means to understand the cause and effect relationship between two or more variables. According to research on StatTrek.com, the researcher compares group scores on some dependent variable. Based on the analysis, the researcher draws a conclusion about whether the treatment, the independent variable, had a causal effect on the dependent variable. On the other hand, non-experimental or qualitative methods include the use of surveys, case studies, and ethnography as a means to gather data. Depending on the type of study, a researcher must decide which methodology will best address the research question and hypotheses presented. Sample size is important in order to accurately test for the hypothesis in an experiment. To determine the sample size, Christensen, Johnson, and Burke suggest looking at the research design, variability of data, and the type of statistical procedures to be used. Power, which refers to rejecting a null or false hypothesis, is an important component of determining sample size. If the confidence interval and confidence level are known, the use of sites like Creative Research Systems will assist in calculating a sample size for the experiment. Research instruments include but are not limited to computers, checklists, surveys, assessments, and medical procedures. The type of research being done will best determine the type of instrument needed during the experiment. Some instruments prove more beneficial than others, contingent upon the type of research being conducted. While surveys are best for non-experimental methodology, the use of computers might be beneficial in the recording of information documented during an experiment. Questions to consider when formulating research procedures include: how will each activity be sequenced? What procedures will be followed during data collection? How will participants be greeted, given instructions, and debriefed? If being used, how will animals be maintained in the laboratory? This infographic on the slide is an example of research procedures used in an experiment. It includes briefing, a welcome, the handing out of materials, the completion of questionnaires, specific measurements, and all procedures needed for the study. It is organized by steps to ensure for smooth transitions throughout the study. In conclusion, an approved, well-planned, and organized research design should be the goal of all researchers. Thank you for your attention and have a great day.